going on somewhere because there's some bug going around and I caught it. So I think if we kept our environment a lot cleaner, maybe we wouldn't have so many of those bugs floating around. But at any rate, thank you guys for coming. And we have an amazing list of speakers lined up to share their
first time speaking at one of these events instead of singing, so here I go. Yes. So good morning. My name is Jennifer, and I am a mom, field consultant of Nevada for Moms Clean Air Force. We're a nationwide community of parents fighting the pollution that causes climate, that protects our children's health and their future. I joined Moms Clean Air Force and have been part of opening the chapter here in Nevada for the mere fact that I witnessed 3 floods in my valley, the Carson Valley, in a short time of 2 months. And watched our fire season burn over 1 million acres here in Nevada, which caused Washoe County, this county, to have a air quality of F this year in their rating because our valleys were covered in smoke. This made me want a solution, so it caused me to get myself to work. I am a part of a group of parents who make up a 1 million strong force, and we are all united in the belief of that there is nothing more precious than the health of our safety and health of our children. Like all parents, I want my children to be healthy and happy, to breathe clean air, to drink clean water, and to enjoy the healthiest of futures. 2 years ago, Moms Clean Air Force Health Director went to Paris to deliver a message to the world's leaders. Our message was nothing new. Moms want a stable future for our children. We joined parent organizations from all around the world who were fighting for green gas emissions for the sake of our children's health and future. We witnessed the power of nations and the world working together to solve the most pressing challenge of our millennium. Only Nicaragua and Syria did not participate. Nicaragua was because the plan didn't go far enough in slashing carbon emissions. Syria because it was a nation mired in war. But those nations have now joined this global agreement. But the U.S. has backed out. The U.S. stands alone. The only nation in the community that's not part of the Paris Climate Agreement. Yes, and as parents, we diligently teach our children the common sense lesson. When you make a mess, clean it up. We know U.S. has long been and still continues to be the largest carbon polluter per capita in the world. That pollution is threatening the health of the well-being of all the people. Houston knows that. The city residents waded through toxic waste after more than 50 inches of rain fell in August, more than any other storm in U.S. history. Florida also knows this. The state faced blackouts that left millions in the dark following Hurricane Irma. Puerto Rico still knows this. Many still do not have electricity or safe water after 8 weeks that the storm left in Hurricane Marina. These events were all made worse because of climate change. It is our responsibility to do something about this. Climate change is not some faraway issue. It's happening right now, harming our communities from coast to coast. Climate change is posed to exacerbate a complex web of major health threats, such as asthma, allergies, Lyme disease, malaria, Zika, mental health, malnutrition, war, and much more. This is why it is critical that we keep speaking out. We understand that action on climate change cannot wait. Acting on this issue offers an opportunity to improve our health, our economy, our global standing. If the president does not understand this, we are going to go ahead anyways. Woo! Nothing can stop us. Woo! As a parent and as a citizen of the world, the 1 million plus members of Moms Clean Air Force stand by the Paris Agreement. Today, we are reminding the world that if the president will not lead us, we will show him what real leadership looks like. Woo! And we are not alone. Mayors, governors, clergies, university presidents, CEOs, tribes, county executives and moms from sea to shining sea are saying we are still in. Thank you.
For coming out today. As Pat said, my name is Emily Woodall. I'm the Regional Field Director for the Nevada Conservation League. The Nevada Conservation League is a daughter organization of the National League of Conservation Voters. We have active state groups in 30 different states, and here in Nevada specifically, we're working on holding elected officials accountable for their votes on environmental issues. So we gathered here today, and I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about why we're here. So I want to talk a little bit about the Clean Power Plan and the Paris Accord, what those things mean, how they interact with each other, and what's at stake for us today. So the Paris Agreement, or the Paris Climate Accord, is an agreement within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. In the Paris Agreement, each country that is signed on determines and regularly reports its own contribution it should be making to mitigate the threat of global warming by reducing their own CO2 output. Earlier this summer, President Trump signaled that he was planning on pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord, even as Syria and Nicaragua, two of the last holdouts, have signed on. What this means is that the world isn't waiting for the U.S. to act on climate. Nearly 200 other nations from around the globe have adopted the Paris Agreement, and that does include every nation at this point except for the United States. And they are moving swiftly to implement it as we speak. Everyone from India to China to Canada and the EU have made it clear that they will stay in the agreement and move forward regardless of what the United States decides to do. The U.S. will only do itself enormous long-term diplomatic damage by withdrawing and render itself less competitive when it comes to creating clean energy jobs here at home. What this shows us is that our leadership in Washington is out of state with their own country. According to the Yale Center of Climate Change Communication, the Paris Agreement is overwhelmingly supported by the majority of Americans in every single state. Businesses from across the U.S., including Google and Microsoft, as well as investors and tribes and faith communities, have all come together and said they still want the United States to be part of the Paris Climate Accord. The city of Reno is, as you have heard earlier, is the only city in Nevada that has signed on with the Paris Accord. And we join with 400 other United States cities that have also signed on. 60 of those cities have actually set targets higher than what is in the Paris Accord. So those cities, are leading the way regardless of what's happening in Washington. So when the Paris Accord was agreed upon, the EPA, then under President Obama, proposed the Clean Power Plan. And this would require each state to reduce their CO2 emissions, specifically focusing on reducing CO2 output from existing power plants and increasing clean energy technology in that state. However, Scott Pruitt and the Trump administration are planning and have actually gone through with the repeal of the Clean Power Plan and have signaled that they may replace it with a much worse Dirty Power Plan that favors polluters and big oil and fossil fuel companies.
Boo!
Administrators Pruitt's decision to repeal pollution limits for power plants will take our country backwards. The deadly and destructive hurricanes and fires that have gripped our country over this last year are just a few indicators of the economic and human toll that is being suffered from climate change in America right now today. And the world's climate scientists all agree that we'll only see more of these severe and destructive events like this if we don't take measures to transition to a clean energy economy. So here's what we know now. Extreme weather has cost the U.S. economy at least $240 billion a year over the past 10 years. Transitioning to a clean energy economy is good for our economy and will create jobs. By repealing the Clean Power Plan, the Trump administration is derailing this transition to a clean energy economy. And we know that clean energy jobs have seen incredible growth in the last few years, with solar and wind jobs growing at a rate 12 times faster than the rest of the United States economy. Finally, despite how this may seem, the Clean Power Plan and the Paris Agreement are not partisan issues. Climate change is not a partisan issue. Behind the data and the statistics are real people, and they are suffering the real effects of climate change, and they're suffering them today. Nobody voted to breathe dirty air. Nobody voted to drown our shorelines with rising sea levels. Nobody voted to leave their children a dirtier and sicker planet than the one they inherited. So we are all here today to say that we are still in, despite what the Trump administration wants to do. Local, city, and state and businesses are leading the way and doing so with an unyielding message. We're still here, we are still taking action, we are not giving in to big polluters while our planet and health and jobs are at stake. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you everyone for coming out on such a nice Tuesday afternoon to Believe Plaza, as we've come to call it, even though it's the City Plaza. And you know, this has been a wonderful public space for so many of you and for so many members of our community to come out and gather and share stories and kind of rebuild our strength in these trying times. So I congratulate all of you for your advocacy, and thank you for the invitation for being here. And it's almost cliche to say, but as I was listening to NPR this morning, the discussion really was about, again, this notion that, as we've heard from speakers today, for whatever reason, we are the only country on the face of the earth that is backing away from the Paris Accords. But, and you always have to look at the bright side of things, and what you're doing today is a part of that, and what the city of Reno has done in declaring that we are still in is a part of this, is that when you look at all of the cities that have come together across the globe, including cities across the United States, across red states, blue states, East Coast, West Coast, Mountain West, whatever, so much of the geography of the United States responsible for the emissions and responsible for the possible solutions that we can bring to bear on the problem of climate and climate change, we're still in. It doesn't matter what's happening in Washington, D.C. This is a 4-year blip, right? This is, we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to keep the progress and the momentum happening. And as I've always said throughout my career in public service, you know, first in the Nevada legislature and now honored to serve and represent all of the residents of the city of Reno on the Reno City Council, this just makes sense for us in Reno. We are not a carbon energy state. We are a clean energy state. We have a clean energy environment. And Reno, in fact, is at the forefront of the clean energy economy. And this is about prosperity, building prosperity for all of our citizens at the same time that we are leading the nation, leading the state when it comes to innovation in the clean energy space. And so much of what we do at the city of Reno when it comes to sustainability and climate action is because it just makes good sense. So that's why we're here. And I hope that you can share that message with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family, and frankly with other local governments in Northern Nevada in particular, because, you know, why aren't they here? Where are they? Are they still in too? Let's try to get more folks to come to the stage, and not just the city of Reno that is leading this charge. And I do have some talking points I want to share with you, a lot of the good things that we're doing at the city of Reno, so you have a better sense of what it is we're doing over there when it comes to sustainability and climate action. But also, again, things that you can share, the good news that you can share with other people that may feel like, I mean, I'm short, but I'm not that short. I got to figure out this microphone situation.
You could take it off.
Oh, the heck with it. Okay, this is better. So that you can share the good news, because I know it's depressing. I know every day we turn on the news and we're thinking, oh, what next? Oh my goodness. But there is so much positive news out there that we can share and continue to find light in the darkness, frankly, that's out there. So as you are all aware, today is a particularly important one We are in the middle of the UN Climate Conference in Bonn, Germany. Despite all the noise from Washington, D.C. and the current administration's rejection of climate science, 7 in 10 Americans believe that the United States should take part in the Paris Agreement. And as I understand it, and boy, if I could have afforded that plane ticket, I probably would have gone too. There are plenty of Americans in Bonn right now that continue to speak up for all of us that are still in. States, cities, and businesses representing more than half the U.S. economy and population have declared their support for the Paris Agreement. This is a landmark event where the global coalition of countries will continue to build momentum and set the next wave of coordinated action by governments at every level in the private sector and citizens, you and me, to turn the tide on the most significant challenge we face today. Mayor Sheevy and my colleagues on the City Council join over 2,500 leaders from America's city halls, state houses, boardrooms, businesses, and college campuses by signing the We Are Still In Declaration. And Mayor Sheevy gives her regrets for not being able to come today, but she's happy to have me here, and like all things sustainability, it's just such a pleasure to work with her on it, because she just gets it and says, yep, what do we need to do, and how do we get there? We are signaling to the community and to the world that Reno is committed to honoring the Paris Agreement in the absence of federal leadership. We Are Still In is a bipartisan initiative spanning all 50 states and representing over 130 million Americans and $6.2 trillion of the U.S. economy. We are proud to stand with over 100 of America's climate champions participating in the United Nations climate talks at COP23 this week in Bonn, Germany. These men and women represent our universities, our mayors and governors and business leaders, and we stand in solidarity with them to show the world that U.S. leadership on climate change extends beyond just the federal policy.
Yes.
On November 7th, and many of you were here for this, Mayor Sheedy was recognized for her leadership in joining We Are Still In by Green Nevada. She was honored by our community with the 2017 Golden Pine Cone Sustainability Award in the Public Service category. Mayor Sheedy was quick to share this honor with her colleagues, saying she accepts this award on behalf of the entire council. Reno has long seen itself as a pioneer city. In the beginning, Reno was a town built on mining and gaming. The economy of the two industries brought the city into the limelight. Today, Reno has its sights on building our clean energy economy. In the past decade alone, the city of Reno has invested in energy efficiency and renewable energy projects that have reduced municipal building energy use by 37%, providing cumulative savings of $10.3 million, resources that now support other city priorities. See, it just makes sense. Reno honors the Paris Agreement, and we're taking action. So we've been involved, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these points because there's a long laundry list of the things that we have done. Whether it's joining in PUC proceedings related to clean energy, whether it's been working with other local governments down in the Nevada legislature to advocate for good policies, and then most recently, the City Council on August 23rd took the action to initiate our latest effort, and that was the Better Buildings Challenge, working with the U.S. Department of Energy, working with the federal government in partnership to help people in the built environment realize energy efficiency savings. And that is the #1 way that cities are walking the walk, not just talking the talk, reducing our carbon footprint by making sure that, you know, we can save money at the same time we're saving energy. And so our Better Buildings Challenge is a big part of that program, to try to set the example that we're going to figure out better ways to use energy and be more efficient here at City Hall with all of our city operations, but also lend that support to the private sector and other parts of our city. And I think, you know, again, as we're trying to find ways to get past the frustration that we all feel in the current environment, it is so important to keep those conversations, particularly as we have Thanksgiving coming up, at the dinner table with family and friends who are not out here, but I think are starting to understand that as they're watching the stories of extreme weather events, as they're seeing these, you know, mega fires kick up in the western region in particular, people are starting to understand that this is real and that they've got to find a way to take part in the solutions. As the fastest warming city in the United States, the future of Reno is bound by the actions we make to address climate pollution. You do understand that, right? I mean, as you look at the fastest warming cities in the United States, so many of them are in the Southwest, and Reno is on that list. We've all seen the results of severe weather patterns that have been caused by the dramatic shift in our global climate. Exacerbated tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, and droughts. In Reno, we have seen long droughts and a dramatic increase in flooding and wildfires in the most recent years, and an extension of our wildland fire season. That alone is a major wake-up call. These natural disasters have shaken our perspective and challenged our assumptions about the future. Right now, we are being presented with a new opportunity to make Reno more resilient. Investments in clean energy, multimodal transportation infrastructure, transit-oriented development, and smart growth are not only good for the environment, they're good for our community. These investments not only reduce climate pollution, they will also create good green jobs for our residents. By joining We Are Still In, we've signaled our commitment to taking action to lower our carbon emissions and ensure our future prosperity, as well as cleaner air and a healthy environment for our families. Together, we are still in on delivering a better, clearer future for our children and grandchildren. And again, please keep this momentum going by challenging other elected officials at all levels of government here in Nevada to make the bold pledge that they too are in for climate action. Woo! I'm still in. Are you still in? Woo! Hey, thank you for everything that you do.
Get a job that
we sent Carissa down there, but
oh, actually, Carissa's coming.
yeah, right.
White man.
Yeah.
White man.
He didn't want us.
No.